As we go into scene 3 of Act 1 of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge and Marley, let's first take another look at the playwright. As we learned yesterday, a playwright is simply a person who writes a play. This play was written by Israel Horovitz, and as it turns out, Mr. Horovitz actually passed away just last week on November 9th. This information was pulled from his obituary in the New York Times. Israel Horovitz enjoyed his biggest success off-Broadway and in regional and European theaters, including the Gloucester Stage Company in Massachusetts, which he helped found in 1979. His plays gave opportunities to a number of young actors who went on to become household names. Mr. Horovitz made Broadway twice and occasionally tried Hollywood. He traced his stage career to his writing a novel at age 13. Again, let's look at the background of this novel. Mr. Horovitz's play is an adaptation of the original novel, which was written by Charles Dickens, entitled A Christmas Carol. And in A Christmas Carol, Mr. Dickens shows sympathy for the struggles of the poor. His story is set in England during the 19th century, which was a time of rapid industrial growth. In this booming economy, the wealthy lived in luxury, but the poor and the working class suffered. As we see again from the list of characters, this is no simple play. There are over 40 characters in this play, so it is a pretty complex undertaking. The major characters in this play are Jacob Marley, Ebenezer Scrooge, Bob Cratchit, the Ghost of Christmas Past, the Ghost of Christmas Present, Tiny Tim Cratchit, and the Ghost of Christmas Future. And as the play develops, you'll get to know each of these quite well. We learned several weeks ago that setting is when and where a story takes place. The setting of this play is in various locations in and around the city of London, England, including Scrooge's chambers or home, Scrooge's offices, the Cratchit home, Fred's home, Scrooge's school, Fezziwig's offices, and Old Joe's hideaway. The time of the place is Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the morning after Christmas in the year 1843. As a quick review, in scenes 1 and scenes 2, we met the ghost of Jacob Marley, who told us the background of Scrooge, how he was a very rude, mean, and stingy man, and we learned that the two of them were business partners prior to Marley's death. We meet Bob Cratchit, who works for Mr. Scrooge. We meet Scrooge's nephew, a very cheerful, friendly young man who has no luck cheering up Uncle Scrooge. And we meet the two gentlemen who come in asking for money to help the poor, who are thrown out by Mr. Scrooge. As we conclude yesterday, Scrooge is leaving to go home for the night on Christmas Eve. So let's begin scene 3. No light at all, no moon. That is what is at the center of Christmas Eve. Dead black, void. Scrooge puts his key in the door's keyhole. He has reached his rooms now. The door knocker changes and is now Marley's face. A musical sound, quickly, ghostly. Marley's image is not at all angry, but looks at Scrooge as did the old Marley look at Scrooge. The hair is curiously stirred, eyes wide open, dead, absent of focus. Scrooge stares wordlessly here. The face before his very eyes does the liquis. It is a knocker again. Scrooge opens the door and checks the back of same, probably for Marley's pigtail. Seeing nothing but screws and nuts, Scrooge refuses the memory. Pooh, pooh. The sound of the door closing resounds throughout the house as thunder. Every room echoes the sound. Scrooge fastens the door and walks across the hall to the stairs, trimming his candle as he goes, and then he goes slowly up the staircase. He checks each room: sitting room, bedrooms, lumber room. He looks under the sofa, under the table. Nobody there. He fixes his evening gruel on the hob, changes his jacket. Scrooge sits near the tiny low-flamed fire, sipping his gruel. There are various pictures on the walls. All of them now show likeness of Marley. Scrooge blinks his eyes. Bah, humbug! Scrooge walks in a circle about the room. The pictures change back into their natural images. He sits down at the table in front of the fire. A bell hangs overhead. It begins to ring of its own accord. Slowly, surely begins the ringing of every bell in the house. They continue ringing for nearly half a minute. Scrooge is stunned by this phenomenon. The bells cease their ringing all at once. Deep below Scrooge, in the basement of the house, there is the sound of clanking of some enormous chain being dragged across the floor. And now up the stairs. We hear doors flying open. Bah! Still! Humbug! Still! This is not happening. I won't believe it. Marley's ghost enters the room. He is horrible to look at. Pigtail, vest, suit as usual, but he drags an enormous chain now, to which is fastened cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses fashioned of steel. He is transparent. Marley stands opposite the stricken Scrooge. Ha, now, what do you want of me? Much! Who are you? Ask me who I was. Who were you then? In life, I was your business partner, Jacob Marley. I see. Can you sit down? I can. Do it then. I shall. Marley sits opposite of Scrooge in the chair across the table at the front of the fireplace. You don't believe in me. I don't. Why do you doubt your senses? Because every little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheat. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are. There's a silence between them. Scrooge is made nervous by it. He picks up a toothpick. Humbug, I tell you, humbug! Marley opens his mouth and screams a ghostly, fearful scream. The scream echoes about each room of the house. Bats fly, cats screech, lightning flashes. Scrooge stands and walks backwards against the wall. Marley stands and screams again. This time he takes his head and lifts it from his shoulders. His head continues to scream. Marley's face again appears on every picture in the room, all screaming. Scrooge, on his knees before Marley, says, Mercy, dreadful apparition, mercy, why, oh, why do you trouble me so? Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me or not? I do, I must. But why do spirits such as you walk the earth, and why do they come to me? It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men, and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, is condemned to do so after death. Marley screams again, a tragic scream from his ghostly bones. I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. Is its pattern strange to you? Or would you know, you Scrooge, the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was full as heavy and long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain. Terrified that a chain will appear about his body, Scrooge spins and waves the unwanted chain away. None, of course, appears. He sees Marley watching him dance about the room. Marley watches Scrooge silently. Jacob, oh Jacob Marley, tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob. I have none to give. Comfort comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. A very little more is all that is permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. Ow! My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me, in my life, my spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hole, and weary journeys lie before me. But you were always a good man of business, Jacob. Business! Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, benevolence were all my business. Scrooge is quaking. Hear me, Ebenezer Scrooge. My time is nearly gone. I will, but don't be hard upon me. And don't be flowery, Jacob. Pray. How is it that I appear before you in a shape that you can see? I may not tell. I have sat invisible beside you many and many a day. That is no light part of my penance. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope of my procuring, Ebenezer. You were always a good friend to me. Thank you. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. Would that be the chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob? It is. I think I'd rather not. Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first one tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. Couldn't I take them all at once and get it over, Jacob? Expect the second on the next night at the same hour. The third upon the next night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more. Others may, but you may not. And look that, for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us. Marley places his head back upon his shoulders. He approaches the windows and beckons to Scrooge to watch. Outside the windows, specters fly by, carrying money boxes and chains. They make a confused sound of lamentation. Marley, after listening a moment, joins into their mournful dirge. He leans to the window and floats out into the bleak, dark night. He is gone. Scrooge rushes to the window. Jacob! No, Jacob! Don't leave me! I'm frightened! He sees that Marley has gone. He looks outside. He pulls the shutter closed so that the scene is blocked from his view. All sound stops. After a pause, he reopens the shutter and all is quiet, as it should be on Christmas Eve. Carolers carol out of doors in the distance. Scrooge closes the shutter and walks down the stairs. He examines the door by which Marley first entered. No one here at all. Did I imagine all that humbug? He looks about the room. I did imagine it. It only happened in my foulest dream mind, didn't it? An undigested bit of thunder and lightning in the room. Suddenly, sorry. There's silence again. The lights fade out.